A spectre is haunting the world. The livelihoods of nearly 1 billion people could be at risk. Worldwide, farmlands nearly the size of the United States could turn into a dust bowl. Desertification is on the march. Countries are consuming too much water. The land is being overburdened by too many people, too much livestock, and too many harvests. 2006 is the UN's International Year of Desertification. In this edition of Villages on the Front Line, we're in West Africa, in the landlocked country of Niger. 2/3 is desert, and according to some, precious little is being done to stop the Sahara taking over the other third of the country. There are lots of reasons put forward for the desert's advance. A drying out of the climate, a prodigious increase in the human population demanding more water and land, and abandoning traditional systems of cultivation are among them. Some suggest it's environmental doom-mongering, and desertification here is just part of the normal cycle of life on the edge of the desert, with good years and bad. Suleiman Mahaman is not one who thinks desertification in Niger is part of a cyclical process. He thinks the dunes are winning, and he's deeply sceptical about claims that the villagers are waking up to the threat and putting up a stubborn resistance. His companion is Dr. Lawanu Mahaman, no relation by the way, and that's not the only distance between them. He can see the same landscape and the same people, but comes to a polar opposite view. He believes the villagers in Niger are going to confound all the pessimists. In this film, we will try to find out who is right.
The village was there, between that big tree and those dunes. It was a big village. That house is totally buried. You can still see some remnants of houses. It's the wind that moves the dunes.
Ali Miko points repeatedly to the dunes that have overtaken his village. It's as if he fears no one will believe him. But Dr. Lawanu and Suleiman Mahaman need no convincing. Suleiman is one of West Africa's leading film directors who has been chronicling the desert's invasion. Dr. Lawanu is the top ecologist at the National Institute for Agricultural Research in the capital Niamey. Dr. Lawanu says the starting point for the invasion of the desert was the 1973 drought. The inhabitants of Limandi village in southeastern Niger watched helplessly as the desert claimed their homes and fields. "11 years ago they moved and built a new village at the foot of the sand dune that had engulfed the old one. But the threat has not lifted.
We're in danger. The desert keeps advancing. We keep fighting. We don't sit idly by. To the east of the village, we've cut bushes and will continue putting up fences.
They're erecting fences to stop the dunes. That's to stop the wind. Thanks to that, next time it rains, vegetation will appear, especially shrubs, and will fix the dunes.
In the Diffa region, near the border with Nigeria, the desert seems to be taking over. There's no official record, but it's estimated hundreds of villages have been abandoned. Limandi seems to be an exception in taking countermeasures. It seems other communities are waiting for help from the authorities or an aid agency. Even the scattered oases are threatened. Suleiman Mahamans was here filming less than a year ago, and in his view the situation looks bleaker than ever.
I thought that after a year I would see some change regarding the fixing of dunes and all that. But I have the impression that since I left there's been no work done in the places that we visited. And there are even some places where some hedges have been destroyed.
Dr. Lawanu has a different perspective.
No. In my opinion, people are making efforts, and you can see that. You can see that the villagers themselves have realized that they can control the situation. With the fences they're putting up around their village and fixing the dunes. The herbaceous coverage is growing, and that is a good thing. It's a good sign.
It's always the same. People don't realize that they are fighting for themselves. Most of the time they think they are working for a project, and once the project is gone, people stop working.
Dr. Lawanu does not agree with the filmmaker, but he says he can show him a village 700 kilometers away where Suleiman will need no convincing that the desert can be held at bay. Their destination is a village of 3,000 inhabitants in the Maradi region in south-central Niger. "20 years ago, Dan Saga was threatened by shifting dunes just as menacing as those in the Diffa region. Lawanu and Suleiman find that the fatalism of the villagers of Diffa was not shared by the people of Maradi.
When we realized that desertification was advancing, that sand dunes were forming, that we could no longer cultivate around the village and that the wind was burying everything, we gathered together. We decided to stop clearing the fields. We decided that if a little bush appeared in a field, we should leave it there. That's what we did, but it was too harmful for the crops. So we met again and we decided to prune, to leave 5 stems. Then we got support and encouragement from a project. They saw what we were doing and they gave us technical support. In the end, our technique gained ground and even surrounding villages have adopted it.
Some 1,900 hectares of degraded land have been recovered in 16 years. There are now an average of 66 trees per hectare. So why has this village succeeded, where so many others have failed?
There are villages where people look for a leader to start things off, and then everybody follows. But in other villages this is not the case. Dan Saga is an exception. Here it's young people who are the real innovators. They do things when they're given an opportunity, or when they see something good, and they take it up and keep doing it and do it well.
Even Suleiman Mahamans, our pessimist, is impressed.
The region of Maradi is very agricultural. People are very attached to their land. So they're ready to do anything that's good for their land. I'm very impressed by the people I've seen in this region, because I know that thanks to this, they've been able to fight back the sands encroaching on their agricultural land.